Hey, man.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, how are you?
Good, good. I don't know if you remember me, but I covered the Christmas Jam this year for Rolling Stone, and it was a pleasure interviewing you.
Yeah, I do. And we hung at that barbecue thing.
Yeah, man, what a great night.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Well, I guess just to start, what was your biggest takeaway from the 30th anniversary of Christmas Jam? I mean, not only was that a big milestone, but it just felt really special this year.
Yeah, the whole thing just seemed to flow great, and I thought it was a really great balance of diversity, and I really just dug it all the way around. I loved the Dave Grohl play thing. I thought that was really cool. But a lot of the side stage stuff was really fun too, just the little impromptu pairings, you know?
Yeah.
I really dug it a lot.
Well, and then you're coming back next weekend with the Dreams and Songs. Tell me a little bit about why you've pursued this idea of the symphony. You've done it before with the Jerry Garcia celebration. Why you wanted to do this again?
Well, the Asheville Symphony had reached out to me a while back about the possibility of us doing something together, some cool collaboration, and we've just been working on what that might be. And so eventually the idea came up of doing like something that kind of was a journey through what I've been doing the last 30 years or so. Some Allman Brothers songs, Government Mule songs, Dead songs, songs from my solo projects, songs from other projects that I've been part of. And so once that kind of presented itself, it all started to fall in place. We started thinking about, okay, in a perfect world, what musicians would I love to be part of the core band? And I've been working on song selections for months and months and months, and I'm really excited about it.
So, how do you approach the idea of playing with the symphony? Is that different with other collaborations that you've done in the past, or is there a whole other way that you have to come at it?
Well, the Garcia symphonic thing that I did was the first time I'd ever worked with a symphony, and that presented a unique challenge of its own because I was the one choosing the material and presenting the band arrangements to the symphonic arrangers. And so I really, more than anything, I wanted to pick songs that I felt like would marry to a symphony in a way that elevated the songs to another place and didn't just sound like adding an orchestra to a song.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to make sure that we left plenty of room for improvisation, which is such a huge part of that music. And so we were able to do that in several different ways. And so I learned a lot from that whole experience, and I'm able to incorporate a lot of those ideas and thought processes into the way we're approaching these songs as well. And in a similar vein, I went through an enormous amount of songs trying to figure out which ones I thought would work and which ones I thought would not work. Because as I pointed out years ago when I first did the Garcia Symphonic Celebration, I'm not someone who thinks that all pop music or rock music sounds good interpreted by a symphony. I think it has to be certain individual choices. And so that's really the main factor here, I think, is choosing the songs that are going to be, transformed into another way of interpreting,
Well, to that point, I mean, the musicians that you've lined up are some of the the finest in the world when it comes to that kind of approach. I mean, when you look at Jeff Stipe and O'Teal with how they got to start with the Aquarium Rescue Unit, it's almost like the possibilities are endless when you got folks like that playing behind you.
Yeah, and Medeski as well. I mean, I'm very fortunate to have all of those guys be part of it, because they're exactly who. I reached out to the people that were at the top of my list, and thankfully they were able to do it.
Yeah. Well, and those guys get it. I mean, they are just as flexible as they are precise,
Yeah, and I've been in the trenches with all of them. And O'Teal has been a part of Government Mule. He's been a part of the Allman Brothers, the Dead, some of my solo stuff.
Yeah.
We connect in a lot of different ways, and of course, Sipe did the whole Ashes and Dust tour with me and the Garcia Symphonic Celebration. Medeski and I have done a lot of things together, one of which was the Last Waltz 40th anniversary tour.
Yeah. Well, I was curious. The reason I brought up Jeff and O'Teal was their connection with Colonel Bruce, and I was curious about, now that it's been almost a couple years since he passed, what the Colonel taught you, not only about music, but perhaps maybe life itself.
I think we all learn so much from being not just on stage with the Colonel, but just being around him in everyday life. And it starts with how you listen to music and how you view music and how you allow yourself to knock down the barriers that tend to get in the way of the way musicians can limit themselves from a creative standpoint. The Colonel just had some beautiful philosophy about what music is and can be and should be. And that's carried over for all of us.
Yeah, well, when I see that you're putting this thing together for next week and I see who's involved, it's almost like this torch you're carrying, too, for that kind of anything goes kind of thing, Yeah,
and, it'll be a balance of songs and interpretation. There will be some instrumental music. There will be songs that don't depend too much on improvisation, and there will be songs that depend completely on improvisation.
Yeah.
And everywhere in between. And the intent was to kind of just cover all the bases of what music means to me, and all the different aspects of music that I enjoy equally.
Yeah. Well, I remember during Christmas Jam, right before you went on stage, they played the audio from Gil Scott-Heron's the Revolution Will Not Be Televised.
Yeah.
Now, can you tell me a little bit about why that was chosen and the importance of what you do when you kind of put it through the prism of where we are as a society right now?
Well, we had taken a lot of songs that were about change and revolution and entering a new time, and put together a few little musical collages that would precede Government Mule coming on stage.
Yeah.
It would say you were changing the radio station from one station to another, to another, to another, and each of them would be a different song with that common thread running through all of them. And then The Revolution Will Not Be Televised would be the last one, and then we would start playing in honor of our newest record, Revolution Come Revolution Go.